Today, we're going to talk about baking our concealer. What is baking? Why do we do it? And who should and should not do it? Let's get into it. You know, I do have foundation and concealer on, so now we are ready to bake our concealer. What is baking? So baking, essentially in a nutshell, is when we take a translucent setting powder, like so. This one's actually a lavender translucent setting powder.
It's my favorite.
But translucent, regardless, is just fine. So it's when we take loose setting powder and we apply it, a ton of it, to the areas that we have applied our concealer previously. So let's start baking. We're gonna take just a little bit of setting powder. So what we're gonna do is first just actually set our under eyes before we bake. Oftentimes when you hear people tell horror stories about baking, it's because they just went right in with all the extra excess powder to start their baking, but they didn't actually set their under eyes first. And if you think about it, when you're putting powder on something like concealer that's already damp or wet, all that's gonna do is make it mushy and gross, and then you're packing on even more powder afterwards. That's why people end up looking like a hot mess.
Yeah, immediately no. Immediately no. Immediately no.
So basically, when people are baking, they need to do it right, or else, yeah, of course it's not gonna look good. Okay, so I've now actually set the areas that I've previously applied concealer, and now we're gonna move on to actually baking. So what you're gonna do is take that same sponge, and now you're actually gonna dip into a lot of powder. Just be careful, because obviously it can get messy. And what we're gonna do is look up, and we're gonna really press it in, and we're gonna press a lot of it.
What the fuck?
So now we're gonna go right down the middle of our nose a little bit. So now that we've applied all this excess powder, we're gonna let it sit for about a minute to a minute and a half. So why are we baking in the first place? It's because we really wanna set our under eye, and anywhere we've applied our concealer, we wanna set that in place so that it doesn't move throughout the day, and it also will brighten it a little bit. That's one of the main reasons I do it, but it's also gonna help keep any fine lines or wrinkles at bay throughout the day, because yes, our faces move. We're people, we're human beings, we have skin, we have facial movements. So if you're someone who has very oily skin, this is gonna be something that you're gonna absolutely love, so definitely give it a try. If you're someone who has more dry skin, this may not be the technique for you because it does pull a little bit of moisture out of your skin. If you have dry skin, you absolutely can bake your makeup. What you're gonna do to help prevent any of that additional dryness that you already have is by using really creamy, really hydrating concealers, a really good moisturizer prior to your foundation and your concealer. You're gonna give yourself as much hydration and moisturization in your skin as possible before you bake. Now, is baking an absolute must for people? No, of course it's not. If you're one of those people who has super smooth under eyes, super smooth skin, it doesn't move throughout the day, it doesn't crease, I envy you.
Out of my face! Out of my face! Out of my face!
But for a lot of us, this is necessary. For me, it is necessary. If I don't bake my under eyes, I 100% will start getting creasing maybe within an hour of doing my makeup. So I need my makeup to look as smooth and perfect for as long as possible, because more often than not, I'm filming tons of videos in a day, I'm doing podcasts or interviews or whatever it may be, and I need my face to look 10 out of 10. So now we've allowed the setting powder to sit on our face. It's baked in for a good couple minutes. And what it's really doing is just warming up with the skin and really doing a good job at smoothing everything out. So I'm just gonna take a little fluffy brush like this and just start brushing it away. You don't wanna use a brush that's super dense because we don't wanna disturb the foundation and concealer underneath the powder. So you definitely wanna use a brush that's more on the fluffier side. I also like to hold my brush at the very end just to make sure that I'm not applying too much pressure. Just very lightly sweep that bake away. So now that we've wiped off that bake, you can see forehead super mattified, super smooth. Everything is super smooth, just very matte, and that's what I want, because especially if you're someone who has oily skin and light's hitting it, it's gonna show off a lot of texture, your pores, whereas if it's super mattified and smooth and baked in like this, you're not gonna see much texture, you're not gonna see as much pores, you're not gonna see anything. It really does a good job at blurring the skin so you can kind of hide any of your imperfections or things that you just don't want people to really see. So if you've never baked before, or maybe you just wanted to try it and just didn't really know how to start, or maybe you've tried it and it didn't look really great for you, hopefully these tips and tricks in today's video were super helpful for you. Please let me know in the comments below if you've never baked before and if you're gonna give it a shot now, or if you have and maybe you wanna try my way of baking. As always, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.